Mrs. Davis is the world's most powerful algorithm, and also happens to be the title of a new Peacock series described by one of its executive producers and co-writers as, quote, a Venn diagram where the sound of music, Black Mirror, and true romance overlap. Naturally. Here to tell us all about it, show executive producers and co-writers Damon Lindelof and Tara Hernandez, along with stars Betty Gilpin, Jake McDorman, and Andy McQueen. Welcome, everyone, the cast, to South by Southwest.
Wow.
Thank you. Where did they come from?
You can just drop the mic and leave now.
That's as good as it gets.
This is good. It's not going to get. It's all downhill from here now.
Fine.
So you go to Hollywood. You're like, listen, I got this show. AI, magic, nuns. Give me $100 million. Damon, how did it go when you were pitching this?
Exactly like that.
And my name's Damon Lindelof. Do you know me?
Do you know I have? Yeah, I don't have a cigarette. I just
the
do
fix
this
it, as
gesture.
we do.
No, I think all of these ideas for me start with the who. It's not about the what. And I had read a script that Tara had written and was a big fan of her work. And so, in a desire to, generate something a little bit different than stuff that I had worked on before, but more importantly, this show was sort of conceived in the heart of COVID, and we just, when you're talking about something, we needed something to kind of lift us out, something a little bit more joyful, a little bit more weird and strange, and we were kind of grappling with the idea of, we really need technology right now. Technology is what's connecting us to one another, but also we're losing the human connection, and we need somebody to kind of like push back against tech. And Tara and I were very well equipped to do that, so we created Simone, who is a nun, and she is going to do it for us.
And I've seen the first 2 episodes, and like I said before, I'm terrified because Peacock has sent burly men right there.
Oh, wow.
If I say anything terrible, they're just going to jump at me if I spoil. So I'm the most expendable here. So I'm not going to spoil anything. I've seen the first 2 episodes, but you see the first episode, and it's an amazing collage of genres. And I'm not making up. It's magicians, nuns, action, AI, falafel. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, what was going on in the mind of the writer? So Terry, you're sitting there during COVID, and you're like, you know what? This is the show I need to be working on right now.
Full chaos. Yeah, no, I mean, it's true. It's almost 3 years to the day that we started working on this show. And while it's not, a pandemic show, it was born out of that time of a lot of confusion and the need for answers. But I would say also, it was a time where we were watching a lot of movies, watching a lot of television, things that we just enjoyed that brought us comfort. So in all the things that you just mentioned, there's also adventure and, the true romance of it, love, all the classic storytelling.
So great, love.
It's the best.
Isn't love grand?
It is.
But it's also, last year, South by Southwest, it's ahead of the curve. Last year, everyone was talking about something called crypto. Have you heard of it? Yes.
Big fan.
Ooh, big fan. Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And this year, everyone is talking about AI. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, wait, it takes a while for a show to get made, for a show to get produced. Well, she was really ahead of the curve. And what's interesting about this, without me giving too much away, and if I give too much away, you could just suck on me right now. Instead of the dystopian HAL AI, instead of Skynet goes operational, in this show, from what we know in the pilot, the world has embraced AI. It's like, it's friendly. Our life is good. The decision to subvert that in this show and how that propels the plot, especially your character, it was a very interesting choice. I'm curious why you went at that from this angle of the friendly AI that people do not rebel against and say, it makes my life better.
I think because, like you just mentioned, and we've seen it, trying to enslave or destroy humanity so frequently, Skynet and HAL, and just sort of the simple thesis of like, what if she didn't? What if she wanted to help us? And I think actually that's more terrifying, a really friendly, presenting, loving, AI and what are her true intentions. So I think it was just the need to want to do something really different that we hadn't seen before. And so just taking this approach that, she was going to be friendly, presenting, like, kindly kindergarten teacher is sort of the first presentation of her in the show. And just from there, that felt so exciting because we hadn't seen it done.
And the conflict and the pushback is like, it chooses female pronouns, says, give me a name, Mrs. Davis, and your character is one in this universe that says, this is not normal. I'm going to push back.
Right.
You're the outlier.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we're used to seeing AI portrayed in film and TV as an outwardly evil thing that everyone is against. And in our world, most of society loves her and loves the aspect that she is wish fulfillment and gives guidance and validation to her users. And I think Simone, my character, is one of the few people who reject her. And Wiley, played by Jake McDormand, is one of the resistance as well.
I did not say that. You did. But you know, when you got the script, and the first 10 pages of the script, without giving too much away, and then you see the introduction of your character, like, a nun battling AI. I was born to play this role.
Yeah.
Did you just jump in all in? Because I know you've worked with Damon before, or were you like, yo, pick up the phone, we got to talk about this. Where's the arc? Where's this going?
No, I was immediately in. I mean, you know, I think that strangely, even though there are so many themes and so many genres in this show, I keep describing it as No Country for Old Looney Tunes.
Excellent. This is why they pay you the big money.
Yeah. Well, you know, I grew up, my parents are both actors, and my dad is also an Episcopalian minister. And there's a lot of themes in the show that I really relate to. Simone has magician parents and is a nun. And I think that, you know, coming from two sides of a coin of knowing illusion, where you're knowingly winking at the audience and in on the trick, and something that is intangible and faith-based, and exploring what both of those things mean to somebody felt very familiar to me. So even though it is a wild kind of genre-defining show, I think that I really related to a lot of the things that we talk about.
There's a lot of stuff that's talked about, and you said resistance fighters, so I'm going to bring Jake in and not giving too much away, but when you read this script, what was your response? You're like, I'm in. This is the role I was born to play, or you're like, I don't understand this, but I'm in still.
Yeah, well, I got the audition and I saw Damon's name attached, and so I was
Up and coming indie auteur.
Of course.
Yeah. A lot of potential.
Whippersnapper.
Very obscure.
Whippersnapper, right?
So I saw that he was attached, and I was like, shit.
You threw it away. Just walked away.
Well, I was like, I'm probably going to really like this, and it's really going to hurt when I don't get this. And then I read Tara and Damon's script and was like, shit, it's really good. It's really going to hurt when I don't get this. And it's all the things that you kind of described. I think when through the callback, we had, like, I was describing it, not the Venn diagram, that's a really good analogy. It was like an explosion at the emoji factory, or like Mad Libs.
It's like the stream that goes up on Instagram. It's like all of them. And speaking about conversation in Hollywood, I got to give a shout out to my brown brother from Canada. I see that I'm watching the pilot, and a little tear comes down my eye because, listen, I'll keep it real. We didn't have this growing up in the 80s and 90s. I was born and raised in America. We didn't have this growing up in Canada, where I'm watching this show, and I'm not going to spoil anything. We see a character. I'm like, okay, the character, falafel, got it. But Andy, your character is more than that, and to see you, share this stage with Betty and to get this role, which expands it going into the second episode without giving it away too much, and I'm like, are they gonna waste him? Are they just gonna use him? And like, oh no, he's the main. So, fist bump from right there. But when you got that both as just an actor in this particular entourage, but a brown actor getting this role at this moment, how did it feel?
It felt incredible, and just like you said, I feel like I'm gonna cry, but it's
You can cry. We've had many tears today.
It's like it's a big moment. I mean, growing up, like you said, we didn't see people like us on the screen. So being able to, work with everyone, here and be a part of something like this, and be an example for other people, coming up, looking at something like this, it's great to be a part of that. It's definitely not something that I ever thought of when I was young, but it's cool for me to think that young people can watch this and see a character who is fully formed, has a beginning, a middle, and an end, a story. That it's important, it's possible,
and is integral to the plot, and not just a punchline or a villain.
Yeah.
And we'll find out more about villains. I'm not going to give anything away, but a show like this. So many themes, so many genres, where in the first 2 episodes, I'll be honest, I'm like, I have no idea where this is going. Compliment. When you pitch it, and when you pitch it to Betty, when you pitch it to Andy, and you pitch it to Damon, or the streamers, do you have to give them the long arc? Do you have to give them like, this is a 5-season arc, this is what's going to happen?
I mean, I think more than anything, you give them the season arc and you say, this is where we're going, this is where we intend to go. Obviously, once you bring in writers and you start actually developing out the story, a lot's going to shift and move. But I think for a story like this, to the point that you just made, that it can feel a bit like I have no idea what's happening, it was important for us to communicate to our collaborators that we really have, we have the end in sight. And I think from that, it really was Peacock who, when we pitched them this ending, they threw their heads back and laughed. They thought it was so incredible. And I think from that, they said, okay, we have a lot of trust, and we know it's going to be a wild ride. But because we saw the arc of one season, this is why we got to do it.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've been at this long enough to know that if you have no plan, you're completely and totally screwed. But also, you can have too much plan because of all the things that Tara just said. A television show, particularly once you start to collaborate, it has a consciousness of its own. So for those of us who are parents, you start to realize, okay, my child has the DNA of myself and my partner, or we're raising our child, but then it starts to be its own person. And so I think that the show tells you what it wants to be. And so while we had a really specific design, particularly there's a lot of mystery infused with Mrs. Davis. There are questions that will have coming out of the first 2 or 3 episodes. And then when you move into the back half of the season, you have to start answering those questions. But Tara and I are huge fans of the Harry Potter books. And the idea of each one of those books, it presents, this one's the Sorcerer's Stone, this one's the Prisoner of Azkaban. It'll solve that issue, but you start to really become attached to the characters. And so at the end of a season 1 of Mrs. Davis, our job was to really invest the audience in the world and in the people who inhabit that world. And then the ideas, they either come or they don't come. And I can just, speaking for Tara and myself and all the other writers, we were starting to get really inspired. And I think that the problem on this show was, is that going to fit? We want to put too much on our plate right now. Are our eyes bigger than our heads? So there are ideas that have not been used yet.
And it requires trust, because when you jump into that script, I'm assuming they're like, will this work? They're going to put me in a nun garb, and then I'm going to ride a horse, and then there's AI. Am I going to make a fool out of myself? And you have to carry that, Betty, right? As the one of the leads of the show. And was that based upon faith in working with Damon, faith in the script, or just, as you said, with your personal life, that you resonated with enough of the themes that you're like, you know what, we'll make it work. The audience will go along with this.
I mean, I think any actor can relate to feeling like the more difficult job is doing jobs where you feel like you're only being asked to do 10% of what you can and want to do. Being number 9 on the call sheet, supportive wife number 6, being like, and how was your day? I want to do what he gets to do. And this job asked me to do 110% of what I could and wanted to do. It felt like a different genre every day. And my scene partners, Andy McQueen and Jake McDormand are 2 of my favorite actors I've ever worked with. Their performances are just so incredible and moving and ridiculous. And coming to work every day, even though the scripts are insane, it's such, it's like, the red meat that we've all been wanting our whole careers.
It's in the pilot. It's in the pilot. You just see the shift of emotions and the shift of genres. It must have been really fun. But you mentioned something, and I'm going to be a fanboy and give you a compliment. It required a certain actor to take on this role, because it demands a lot. And then you had a career with Glow and this show, and also I think the underrated The Hunt, in which you're awesome in that movie. See her in The Hunt; she's so good in it. That when you were coming up with the title, who's going to play Simone? Did you just know it has to be her? It has to be Betty.
Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah.
This is where you lie.
She's like, of course, of course.
I mean,
cameras are like,
it's more of but we can't get Betty. Like, we can't set our sights so high that, like, does she really want to do this?
Yeah, I was so
And-
available.
I feel like, it just, and it's just to credit to all of them, you put something on the page, you give them a map, and you hope that you've, enabled them and inspired them to, like, take it even further. And Betty comes in, or all three of them come in, and it's just like, it's beyond your expectations. And I think, Betty setting the stage for everyone. I think she really did elevate the whole cast to make bold choices and, give it 110. And it was just every single day amazing to see. And I think, she just rose everybody up.
And everyone's going to see it. The cast is great. You're fantastic in it. We really enjoyed it. I wish I had more time. I'm out of time, but you know what? My crew here will hurt me physically if I do not ask about Star Wars.
Oh boy.
Sir, what can you tell us? When is it coming out? Do you have a director? Give me something.
Nothing. I can't tell you anything. When it's coming out, I don't know. It's it's a black box over there, and you're scared about spoiling Mrs. Davis. I'm not even at liberty to confirm that I have any idea what Star Wars even is.
Do you have anything? Are you attached to this adventure in space movie?
I like space. I think it's great. There's a lot of opportunity there, but
Always loved
but again,
space.
yeah, you know what? It's just-
Exclusive.
And I got to give
So
a shout out
vast.
also to the writers. Betty came out with the book. The book
Yes.
came out
Yeah.
a couple of months ago. Give a shout out to the book. What's the name of the book? Where can people buy it?
God, it's called All the Women in My Brain. You can buy it at a bookstore.
and listen to it on Audible.
Oh, yeah.
which is-
And
Yes.
which is
that's
even
why
better.
that's an ally, as
Yes,
they
it's
say.
true.
But first, see Mrs. Davis. It premieres on Peacock April 20th with the first 4 episodes, and we'll be streaming new episodes after that on Thursdays. The show is also premiering tonight, March 14th, here at South by at 5 o'clock at the Stateside Theater, and you can see our complete schedule of upcoming studio interviews on our website at sxsw.com/studio, and these interviews are also live streaming during the event on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/sxsw. I'm your host, Wajat Ali, and thanks for watching.